What is up, mortals? It is I, the Spirit of Ice, here with a new video for you today. Welcome to Part 10, Season 1 of What If Deku Became a Green Lantern. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So I begin. When the day began, Class 1A and the so-called Big Three were prepared for a simple outing that would see them practice their quirks in a controlled environment for the purpose of preparing them for a rescue attempt. While that would be new for them, it was only to be expected for students in the hero course. Consequently, they weren't particularly stressed out about the day, assuming it would be a simple endeavor that would enrich their curriculum. Instead, they were subjected to complete pandemonium with not only the sudden attack by a criminal organization calling itself the League of Villains, but also the earth-shattering revelation that All Might's greatest foe, a monstrous opponent he thought to be dead, was not only alive, but was more powerful than ever, wielding a power that was similar to the ones recently gifted to two of UA's students. In other words, they were facing a completely disastrous situation that no one was prepared for, but that didn't mean they would give up. Odin Smash Freefall Variation! Mirio screamed as he punched All for One again, having activated his permeation to jettison out of the ground and use the fall to empower his attack. While this normally wouldn't have worked against All for One, the punch itself was reinforced by his blue ring, negating the opposing force on his arm and allowing the strike to be stronger than it would normally be. In addition, All for One's mask had been damaged after the orange ring was destabilized, meaning that the villain was weaker than he would normally be. The new Agent Orange screamed as he was forced back through the air. Seeing All for One getting knocked back by a mere schoolboy, and one that was using a purely defensive color ring to boot, Tomura Shigaraki cried out in distress and disbelief. Sensei! You dap! Language! All Might interrupted as he stunned the Nomu with a swift jab to its face before rushing at his enemy's protege. Unfortunately, he was forced to immediately double back as the monster recovered before he could make it to the man-child leering at him. Troublesome beast! Aizawa! Can't you disable its quirks? I am! It must be that strong without the use of any quirks. And for the record, I'm having a hard enough time with this 2-on-1 here. Class A's homeroom teacher retorted. With a sudden flurry of power, Mirio's ring started overcharging, shooting a ring of pure blue light at the so-called strongest lantern, an attack he was too close to dodge. Still not strong enough for us, the masked menace said as he quickly spouted out the words. Kinetic Booster, Harden, and Impact Recoil. So instead of dodging it, he gambled with a combination of his quirks to pull a shonen attack and punch it. And the beam was getting held back by his bare fist. Come on! Togata grunted as he began struggling to push the villain back, only for AFO to stay rooted in the same spot. Was this all the host in Adara had in him? Wait, he shouldn't be able to. I'll admit, you're doing well with the restorative blue light, considering that it shouldn't have any offensive capabilities. But that is far from enough to... Tomura! Look out! What's up? Nobu! Shield! The junior villain screeched out as soon as he realized the bright green light overhead. The Nomu was just barely able to get in front of him to protect him, only to get blasted back, taking the hand-wearing villain with him. About time you showed up, young Midoriya. All Might grinned as soon as he saw the familiar uniform of the green-haired student that had been absent for this whole affair. A little tardy to the party, but better late than never. The torchbearer looked extremely flushed after his attack, as if he'd put a lot more energy in it than he'd wanted. But he flashed a smile of his own as he responded to his teacher. Sorry, All Might, but I needed a minute to think how I was gonna beat Orphidian. Technically, that was a lie, as he had been getting consoled by his entity. But he had used the 10 seconds it took him to fly over to the plaza to come up with a plan. If one could even call it that. Oh. And how do you plan on doing that, Ion? You don't know how to regulate your own excess power yet, though I suppose I could help with that. All Might said with a slight strain in his voice as he continued to resist Mirio's assault. My plan is simple. Mirio, you need to leave so that I can get back to normal. Fly back to the school, tell Principal Nezu what's happening, and rally the teachers here. You should be able to get there in under 5 minutes. In the meantime, I'll hold Orphidian back while they get here.
With that Nomu thing out of the way, All Might can focus on securing the other students while Eraserhead disables Ophidian's other quirks.
The boy explained, his eyes glowing a bright green. Yeah, that's a good plan. I would have suggested the same thing earlier, but I didn't know if you'd recovered, Mirio said as he flung his hand to the side, the blue beam breaking some of the ground before dissipating. In between the two students, their shared enemy smiled, though they couldn't see it from under the mask. Kurogiri, flee with Tamura and the Nomu. It seems as if this play is reaching its final act.
Of course, Your Superiorness. Though Tamura will be upset that he was recalled before he took anyone down.
The Misty Man mentioned as he started expanding before enveloping both the unconscious Shigaraki and the slowly recovering genetic marvel. Before All Might and Aizawa could stop them, he disappeared, leaving the battlefield entirely. Wherever they were now, it was most likely far from the USJ. The Orange Lantern turned to the Cobalt sidekick and made a dismissive motion with his hands. In a mocking tone, he made his thoughts clear. Well, go on then. The Green Lantern is immobile with you here. Even if he doesn't seem as destructive now, fly away and pray that some help will arrive in time. Because he'll certainly need it as soon as our orange light comes back to us. So fly away, little bird. Mirio frowned, but he also knew that there was little more he could do. Midoriya had managed to temper the power boost down to a point where he wasn't causing tremors and whirlpools, but he could still barely move. Be careful, Midoriya. I'll be back as soon as I can. With nothing more to say, the boy bearing the title of Adara jetted off to the entrance, but not before he did one last thing. You guys are going to want to be able to move. Try and hold on to this feeling for as long as you can, he said to the students and teacher that were barely mobile before extending his arms and calling forth a light blue halo around them. As soon as the light came over them, their fear left them and they found themselves able to move their bodies again. Smiling at them one last time in reassurance, he flew straight at the door, permeating through it and speeding through the road that led back to the school. Back at the USJ, Midoriya instantly felt his body relieve the tension it had been carrying. While it was still a bit painful, it felt much better than what had happened a mere 5 minutes prior. I did it, Izuku thought. I kept my power in check and didn't let it spill out. If I can find a safe place to train with Mirio, we can practice working on the enhancement until it isn't an issue anymore. I think we can manage it after a few... Focus! Ophidian has recovered his avarice, Aion yelled into his mind, snapping the boy out of his glee. Indeed, as soon as Mirio left, All For One immediately manifested the orange lantern symbol on the chest of his suit as an orange aura began flowing around him. You seem a bit distracted there, Aion. Should I give you a few minutes? The Snake Man jeered.
If my student isn't enough for you, perhaps you'll find me a better alternative, All For One.
All Might shouted as he took the opportunity to leap at his adversary, hitting the orange shield that surrounded the villain with a Detroit smash. His attack was ineffective, but it certainly seemed to humor Ophidian. I find it borderline laughable to think that I was once harmed by these fists. Had I met my Ophidian a few decades ago, I could have simply killed whatever user held one for all, and my reign would have continued forever. I suppose my hubris was simply undeserving of such a beautiful creature, Agent Orange mused while holding up his lantern. In the end, all that matters is that no one can stop us from getting what we want. As All Might fell back to the ground, AFO twirled around in the air, his gaze enchanting Aion, Aizawa, and all the other students at the doors. First, to Aion, he tainted them with a revelation that shocked those present. I can't help but notice that you can't fly very well, Aion. Strangely, Adara was better at using their powers than you are, despite having your rings for the same amount of time. Is that because you were born quirkless, Izuku? If so, take heart, for All Might was the same until he received his quirk from Nana Shimura. And look how well he turned out. Then he turned 180 degrees and addressed the students and teacher that were still hiding by the stairs. I suppose I've been a bit rude, ignoring you all. Allow me to rectify that with this invitation. Feel free to come at me, all at once. All Might and Ion can join in too. All of you can come attack me at once, see if that harms me. It won't, but at least you'll contribute something here. And if my partner likes you enough, I'll take your quirks, or your lives. A collective shiver ran down everyone's spines before they recalled the feeling of peace that Mirio had given them. From behind their shared adversary, they saw the boy referred to as Ion focus his attention on the orange man. It was clear that he was outmatched in a fight between them, but they weren't about to let him fight alone. Nezure certainly wasn't. This video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN allows you to change your IP address, making it harder to track and securing your privacy. In addition to providing safe passage through the internet, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services like Disney+. If you are from the United States, you won't be able to watch any of the MCU and Sony Spider-Man films, but by switching your location to Japan, you can access them whenever you want. Check out the link in the description to get 3 extra months when you purchase the 12-month subscription plan that costs $99.99 a year. This deal is for a limited time only. And thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. Nezure, wave! Wasting no time, Nezure-chan flew high into the air and shot a spiraling wave of yellowy energy at the villain, only to be blocked by his shield. Fortunately, she wasn't fighting alone. Tower of Frost! Todoroki exclaimed as he encased Orphidian in ice. Following up their combined assault, Ashido began producing her own acid to strike with. Acid splash! She cried as she flung a wave of gray acidic substance on the shield, still not making a dent in it. Texas Smash! All Might yelled as he hit the shield in the side, only to get repelled yet again. From the corner of his eye, he saw Izawa glaring at AFO, doing his own part with erasure. Suddenly, a giant All Might mecha formed before them, its emerald aesthetic making it clear who it belonged to. Smash! With a fear-inducing war cry, Midoriya hit the bubble with such force it was pushed straight into the ground, creating a crater around it. At least one of you possesses an ounce of strength. Orphidian taunted as he unmade the bubble and levitated out of the hole in the ground. Allow me to return the ounce with a ton! Not allowing for the greenette to prepare himself, Agent Orange rammed straight through the mecha's torso with such force that it created a hole that allowed one to see to the other side. Crap! Midoriya muttered as his construct faded into particles. Thinking quickly, he crafted a jetpack that he could use to easily maneuver in. Seeing as how All for One had correctly guessed his inexperience with flying, he figured making something to help him fly wouldn't matter at this point. Unfortunately, while he was so focused on not hitting the ground, he completely missed the approach of All for One. You really ought to learn to focus more, Ion. The man's voice informed the boy from behind him. Izuku responded by creating a metal casing around his arm and attempting to hit the villain in his face, but his fist was easily caught by the tyrant. Is this really all you could think of? Quirkless or not, I'd expect Ion's host to have a bit more creativity. But I suppose, from what my lovely little entity tells me, you and Ion are both incredible side characters. It was pure misfortune that you were cast in a leading role here. But I won't miss out on the opportunity to indulge. I believe the proper expression is, thank you for the meal. Oh no you don't! Detroit Smash! Toshinori charged yet again, this time taking the wielder of Avarice by surprise as the man was too busy satiating himself on the green light of will. The attack managed to hit the face mask, causing it to finally break. What the hell happened to him? None of the other students nor the teachers made any comment, too horrified by the man's face. Or rather, the lack of a face. Ha! If you insist on this charade against your superior, I suppose I'll continue to humor you.
This child certainly doesn't provide much entertainment.
He proceeded to throw Midoriya to the ground, his body bouncing like a rag doll. Young Midoriya! All Might cried as he ran to his student, seemingly teleporting in front of him. Oh, All Might, I'm sorry.
Save your strength. We'll take it from here.
You'll take it from here? You say that as if any of you have done anything. I'm the only one that broke his shield. You only broke his mask just now because he was distracted by me. I'm supposed to be the strongest one here. I beat Kachan so easily, and then I got incapacitated just from an unexpected power-up. Haiyan, what the hell is wrong with this picture? I should be stronger than this, right? We should be stronger than this. All of these thoughts began racing through his head, as All Might began turning away from him the second he determined that Midoriya's injuries weren't fatal. Toshinori's lackluster attitude was starting to piss him off. And now that he thought about it, why shouldn't he use their first names? It was a sign of familiarity and/or superiority, and wasn't he one of the strongest beings in the universe now? What gave them the right to demand he lower himself for them? He was Aion, the Torchbearer. Yes, these thoughts of yours are all accurate. Thank the presence you finally realized them. Orphidian's human is wrong. We aren't side characters, we're complementary characters that make a confident protagonist. Your ambition and my power are a supreme combination. At the risk of angering you further, allow me to let you in on a secret. I lied earlier. Or perhaps I told a half-truth. Either way, I purposely misled you when I said that the power boost you experienced wouldn't happen earlier. The truth is that the power you experienced was merely that of a faulty green ring exceeding its power limit. At Ganthet's request, I've stayed in this pathetic ring and allowed your power to remain limited. My true power is enough to destroy this entire world with little effort. If you were hosting me properly instead of this parasitic setup, we could extinguish the sun itself. Orphidian is powerful, and without Adara he cannot be properly contained. But their bond is not perfect. We can overwhelm them with enough will. I ask you this, Izuku. Will you forsake the safety precautions that this ring provides and risk harnessing the true power of the Emerald Entity of willpower and determination? You know what? Screw it. Screw this farce. All Might halted. The other students froze in place when they heard the gentle Midoriya's words. Even All For One seemed a bit shocked by what was being said, if his frown was any indication. Hey, someone check Lantern Boy and see if he needs a medic. He seems Shut up, Shota! The Green Lantern shouted as he rose up. Where are you all getting off? Acting like there's a single thing you can do here. I said that you should all be getting to safety while I held him off, didn't I? So why are you all preparing to fight? No one dared to answer him. The whole conversation seemed surreal at the moment. All Might, get out of the way before you get stuck in the crossfire. You too, Eraser. Aion, I don't care what we have to do. Remove the limiters, break the ring, overload my nervous system, whatever it takes to shut this snake up! And it was then that a voice, so ancient that it seemed older than the world itself, spoke inside the desecrated dome of the USJ.
Then let the Torchbearer come to light. Prepare yourself, young Orphidian.
A blinding, brilliant wave of iridescent light began rushing out of the boy's body, originating from the ring on his index finger. So potent was the lime-colored light that cracks started forming on the ring, more light spilling out of them. As the screaming intensified, an earthquake began shaking the entire facility, this one much bigger than the ones from before. The energy started shooting upwards, creating a hole in the ceiling of the facility. And then, the God of Will descended upon them. A whale, so giant that it blotted out the sun, was hovering over them. Its light green body mesmerized all 22 students, 3 teachers, all for one, and any villains still conscious. And then, before their very eyes, the entity before them started descending into the premises. Its solid form turning more into energy as it shape-shifted, allowing itself to be absorbed into Midoriya's body, resulting in one final light show that blinded everyone present. As the lights died down, those present slowly opened their eyes toward Midoriya, whose presence had now changed. Instead of the standard Green Lantern uniform, he now donned a set of emerald armor that made him look like some sort of warlord. The ring had shattered in the initial explosion, and his hands were now covered by a pair of green gloves. He was even donning a cape and a small mask covering his eyes, all in a viridescent hue. And then he spoke, with a voice full of power and authority. "Ophidian, consume our power at your own risk. We spared no mercy for you, Tempter." The Ion raised his hand before a slightly trembling All for One and shot a beam of his unfiltered energy straight at the tyrant. To his credit, Agent Orange tried raising a hand of his own to absorb the blast, but he found himself overwhelmed by the sheer quantity of energy. With a final cry of desperation, he was engulfed in the blast, ejecting him from the USJ via a newly made hole in the wall, his body flying so far back that it soon faded into a dot in the sky. And as everyone was trying to pick up their jaws off the floor at the absurd display of power, Nezu and Mirio chose that moment to burst into the facility, an army of teachers right behind them. Thank you all so much for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels tell the story of their namesake animes with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to present an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members who are 16 years or older to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for new members to join us. Well, that is it for us for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Once again, I have been the Spirit of Ice, telling all you guys, have a great day.